instructions, which was even an added bonus onto it all. But anyway, we have a couple of minutes to talk about a couple of the events that Dark Side Entertainment is actually putting on. There's Floss Furnace, which is February 13th and 14th. And then there's going to be Tombstone, which is May 1st and 2nd. And I believe in August, it's the Copper Queen. There's more to come, I'm hearing. Not really sure. But those three I know I'm signed. I will be there. And I think Blaine's going to be here pretty soon.
I'm here.
Ah, hello. How are you, Mr. Rohan?
I am doing good. I can cover me in chocolate.
Look out now. If you were a dog, you'd have to. All right. Well, it's good. Thanks for joining me tonight. I was just kind of telling them a little bit about Stanley and that experience and stuff. And I know you have a little bit of experience and have since you were, 4 years old, right?
Yes, I have.
Wow. I don't even know if I can. My life has been so blurry that there are parts that I have, I guess, blurred out of my mind. I can see some things so clearly, but others not so much. And so I don't even remember that. I kind of remember that far back, just little bits and pieces, but I know deja vu hit me really early. Is that kind of the thing that you were having? Is when you started deja vu or what?
I get a lot of deja vu sometimes, and you know, I've heard and seen spirits since I can remember them. 4 was the earliest time I remember seeing a spirit. I probably saw them before then, but that's the most vivid memory because it sticks out in my head.
Right.
You know, you see a lady slumped over a grave crying, and you ask her if she's okay, and she just disappears on you. You sort of not forget that.
Yeah, that would kind of freak me out just a tad bit, you know. I mean, it freaked me out bad enough with the deja vu because being that young, and, you know, feeling like you've been in that place and you've done this before, but you're like 6 and 7 years old and you're going, there's no possible way. You know,
I'll give you a prime example of deja vu. First time I ever went to Gettysburg, I'm like, why does this place seem so familiar to me? It's like, I know where the streets were and stuff. And I'm like, how do I know this? I've never even been here before.
Huh. That's just nuts. I mean, but it happens, and it's so weird. It's like when I walked into the Minger Hotel in San Antonio for Phantom Fest last year. I walked in there, and I have never, ever, in this lifetime, in this body, in this shell, I've never been there. And I walked in that hotel, and that music was playing in the 1920s or whatever, and everything is pristine and the same, and they had the phone booths, and it was just, and my hair stood up on my arms and stuff, and I was like, holy crap. You know, knowing in my mind, I've never been there before, but damn, it was familiar. Like I had walked through that freaking door, like, I don't know how many times, and it was like, okay. And then I had an experience on the second floor, you know, a spirit went like through me. I mean, I was sweating, going to get ready to go to dinner with Chip, and I was like flying to my room, and I was burning up. And all of a sudden, something hit me in the chest, walking to my room, and like just kind of froze me in my place, but I'm in cold, and I went, whoa, I don't know what the heck you are, but you cannot do that, and you cannot follow me to my room. So, yeah, that's kind of crazy, but a woman disappearing on you, that would stick out in your mind. What other things happened to you when you were a kid to kind of get you going, like, what is really going on here?
The vision sort of funny to me. I had an aunt, her husband died, and he was real jealous. And if you ever lived in the South, anybody dies, they send people over from the church. Over there, these 2 men came to the door from the church, and I guess her husband didn't like him being there, and I watched a candlestick come off the nail and fly at the door.
Oh, boy.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, boy. Jealous husbands still in debt. That's the way they're supposed to be. I mean, if they're cranky in life, they're cranky in death most times. And it's good to know that my mom was such a good-hearted, good-loving, you know what I mean, person. So that's what she is in death as well, you know. And so I'm trying to follow that path instead of being a cranky butt, you know. You know, I was going to talk to you a little bit. We had a case Saturday night, a private case. Mm-hmm. And I know you know about some nasty spirits.
Oh, yeah.
Well, this one is a little bit stubborn. The spirit was having an issue with us being there. Didn't know what. Was like, why you here? Kept telling, you don't know me. And we kind of went to the other location in the back of the house to do some stuff back there, and you could almost feel him or it's not ever been human, I don't believe, in the house, just freaking pacing, you know, like causing havoc in the house. You could almost feel it from the back home.
Yeah.
Well, so we had to do a cleansing and a binding and all that stuff on it. And just to be safe, because the lady had, you know, issues with her toes getting jacked with and her butt getting slapped recently and stuff like that. And we were kind of kidding, thinking, was your husband a little spanky? Did he like to, you know, because we thought maybe it would be, you know, him kind of saying, hey, you know what I mean? I'm still here. But it wasn't. And it was really kind of frightening because when we came back into the house, there was a file cabinet open, which wasn't open. And then we were told by someone else that the spirit told them that he'll be back. Have you ran into a lot of that where there's real stubborn spirits, even though you bind them and everything and get them out of the house, they tend to want to come back? Have you had that happen before? I'm sure you have, because some of them have.
You know, I know that. If I bind the spirit, it never comes back. Really? At least not in its mad state or its pissed off state. I allow it to come back once it goes through the process it has to go through.
Okay.
And then a lot of times they're allowed to come back, and they're not the same spirit anymore. They're not the same pissed off person. They're not the same angry person anymore. But yeah, they'll come me back, but they never get to come. They'll come back, but not in the same state they were in.
Okay. And have you ever heard of the spirit leaving the home and getting banished from the one home and then possibly hitting the next home?
Yes, I have. We had a whole neighborhood that our team had to do, and we had this one spirit. It knew as soon as I got there, it bounced from that house to the next house. But we already had that whole block lined up to investigate anyway, so it wasn't going too far. Wow. I ended up binding him in the last house we were in, and what it was, he was a pissed-off landowner. He owned that land back in the 1800s. Aha! Where all those houses are now.
Okay.
Matter of fact, where the very first house was, I believe, is where he had his still.
So he was real mad there messing with his business.
Exactly.
And put damn houses all over his property. Yeah, we don't understand exactly where this spirit is from. We don't know if it's Native American. We're hoping not. But we don't understand what happened. But once we found this one from this one house, her family member lives next door. And she heard a huge knock on the back door. And no one was there. So we're like, you know, she's asking if it's possible. I'm like, yes, you know, it is possible, you know, for them to leave one home and go to the next, you know, or to another if they're banished from that, you know what I mean? So we could have to be going back to do her family member's house, but it was really crazy. And then last night, a friend of mine got another call. It was an emergency call that kids were being pinched and scratched and things like that. And the call kept being hung up on, like 3 times. And then the third time, the spirit it was like this real jacked up voice that came across and said, they're going to die.
Okay, so that's what that's pissed.
Yeah, that's scary. So she dropped her dinner. She dropped her dinner and hauled butt. And I called, she's like, help me find, backup. I don't need to go to this by myself, but I have to help this family. And I'm like, on the phone, calling people. And, para-unity does exist. That's another thing I want us to talk a little bit about is para-unity. But it does exist. And in cases like this, that's what we're here for. It's to help.
Here's a prime example. You're asking me for help for a case that you're on, and I can call you and ask you for help on a case that I'm on. That's para-unity.
That's exactly right. And then coming together, not knowing one from the other, but to help a family in crisis. That's what it's all about. And a lot of this mess that's going on in our community, and even in our United States of America right now, is insane to me. Like I was telling the audience before you got on, my mother, raised me with, I was like sheltered. 9/11 blew me away completely. I never knew there was that much hate in the world because I was raised in this peaceful love. Everybody thought my mom was a hippie, my mom and dad, and they were not. But she was just so loving and so warm and giving and considerate, and you could feel the love when you walked into the room with her. And so that's how I was raised. I don't understand hate and evilness and ugly and dogging on people and, lying on people. And so I don't get that. I don't like this racism stuff that's going on, and we're not even going to go there, but I'm just saying it doesn't compute with me. People are people. Love is love. Live and let live. I just don't, it's bothering me to no end because it's not a competition. And we talked about this. It's a freaking we need to collectively come together to get the answers that we're looking for. And I think para-unity is one way that if everybody would just stop the madness, man, we could so much further this field. I feel like all it does is make us stagnant and look childish and crazy. And I hate that.
You are so right about that. Now, one thing I wanted to say that I normally do of every investigation that I go to, right? I'm real big into Native American culture.
Right.
One of the first things I do when I go to a property, I get permission from the owner. I said, do you mind if I'm going to make an appeasement to the Native American spirits that are here? And I'll go out there and I'll take a little bit of tobacco. I'll actually light a cigarette and share the smoke and share the tobacco with them and offer it up to the chief. Because every piece of property you go to the United States, there are Native American spirits on there.
Hello.
Thank you.
My heritage is Blackfoot and Cherokee, right? So I'm totally all about the Native American, and I understand that they feel robbed. And every time you turn around and we're doing a case that has anything like walking with it, it comes down to you have some land that you took from someone else. And most of the time it is Native American. So please tell us more.
And you can, believe it or not, making that little small appeasement of sharing the smoke, sharing the tobacco with them, it will do wonders. Because you just ask them, look, I'll make this appeasement of smoke and tobacco to you. Will you please watch and protect over this family? And even if it's the spirit that you're there to get rid of, a lot of times it's Native American. You make that little small appeasement to them, that's all that matters. It was like you gave them like $20 million in gold. That was of smoking tobacco. And it means everything to them. And they will help you remove spirits that should not be in the house. And it makes my job so much easier when I cleanse the house if I've got my Native American warriors behind me. And it helps, more times than you ever know. And my job's easy then.
Yeah, true, because, that's the thing. A lot of these properties did. They moved in. They took the Native American land away from these guys. Thought they could make them happy with putting them on reservations and stuff like that, but you just took their land. You took their horses. You took all of that away. And, you know, they were doing their own thing, you know, and it's like somebody coming in your home and doing a home invasion, you know, taking all your stuff and then going, oh, well, I can move you over here, and you should be okay with that. Well, that's not how it works. And so, you know, you do have Indian burial ground, and I'll have a personal thing about that. You know, my mom being, you know, more than half actually Blackfoot and Cherokee, and then, you know, half English and everything. It was like, well, I would say, I don't know if it was more English or whatever, but anyway, she had more than 50% Indian in her, and when she was cremated, she, in her will, wanted her ashes thrown upon, you know, her land, where we live.
Yeah.
And to me, the way I see it, and I don't even know if it is correct or not, but the way I see it is there's right then that's Indian burial ground. Whether she was actually buried there or her ashes were thrown, okay? And it's so crazy because you can actually feel her spirit at her home. It's cool. But my mom being Native American, that's what I think of. So look how many Indians were probably not buried. How many were burnt actually and cremated or whatever they did, you know what I mean? And then thrown up on the land. You know, that's still and then you build homes on top of that. It's like a desecration to them. So the appeasement that you're talking about would make complete sense. To start that before you even go in the home.
And the way I do it, I go right in the middle of the property, in the back of the property. I'll light up a cigarette. I will share the smoke with them. I will share the tobacco with them. And then sometimes I will actually add a little ground up sage, and I will sprinkle it in the ground for them, because they love that. Sometimes if it's a certain tribe, I'll find out what kind of fruit they ate. And I will find a piece of that fruit for them. And I'll cut the fruit up and spread it out for them. But most times, smoke and tobacco does what it's supposed to do. It makes an appeasement for you being there. And once you get the Native Americans on your side, if there's any spirits in that house that shouldn't be there, they're going to make sure that they leave. Because now you've made dealings with them, contracts with them. Yeah. Yeah, that's so cool. They have no problem with sharing at all. But when you just take and not give back to them, it pisses them off pretty well. But you seen, you know, I watched, I think it was Paranormal State, you know, back in the day, and they had a Native American spirit that was jacking with this home because they came and tore down trees, built their 2-story, 3-story home on this property, and they started having all kinds of problems. Well, they ended up having to make an appeasement to the Native Americans by planting new trees. You know, I know the Native Americans understand wood. These people have to have somewhere to live. They've built homes on this property. You know, but they need to give us something back. They can't just take. And I totally understand where they're at with that. You know, my ancestors, I only met my great-great-grandmother that was full-blood Cherokee. Man, and, you know, that's so cool to have that close of a tie to Native Americans. My aunts on my mom's side, my mom, they all look like they're Native American. Dark hair, dark eyes, high cheekbones. Beautiful. You know, they all used to have hair down to their butts when it was Vietnam time. You know, my uncle went to Vietnam when he came home and spooked out because they looked like, you know, kind of the long black hair brought back some terrible memories. The things they did to the Vietnam vets. But anyway, the Native American twist on everything, it's really hard to find records and history things about the land that far back sometimes, unfortunately. Because all you will be able to go back to is the first person that actually filed a court document for a land deed.
Exactly. And sometimes, it is not down.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not the easiest thing, but you always assume.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the easiest thing that it's not the easiest thing that you always want to know right away that more than likely you're standing on Native American ground. Just saying, because you can't really go, well, this piece, no, not so much, and this one, yeah, more than that, but you don't even know. I mean, this whole thing, the whole entire United States of America has probably got so many places that the Native Americans were that, you might as well go ahead and just try that right off the bat just to make peace with them.
They just didn't take the show because they were nomads. They would stay in a certain place, and they knew how much they could hunt in this place. And then when they hunted that limit, they would go to another place and hunt the limit there. But they would never clean out a population of animals because they would go back to that hunting ground later.
Yeah. They weren't stupid. I mean, they weren't. They never looked like they were starving to death or anything like that. It looked like they were, they knew what they were doing, and then they got the boot, I was going to talk to you a little bit about Sloth Furnace.
Oh, my favorite place.
Really? Well, see, the Stanley is for me right now because of the fact of the thing that happened to me. I guess before we get into Sloth Furnace and get all into that, I wanted to ask you what you thought about a spirit. Okay, we had the ovulus down in the tunnel. The ovulus said the girl's name, okay? That's standing there asking the questions, which was freaky, okay? Because it never normally does that. But it said her name. And we were like, oh, crap. Well, all of a sudden, I'm standing about 5 feet away from her, and me and her felt like we were being invaded. We got really, really hot, and it was like snowing outside, okay? Blizzard snow. And we're like in the tunnel, and we got really, really hot, like my ears were on fire. Then she kind of like, get off me, back off, and she kind of squatted down in front of the ovulus. And all of a sudden, I start feeling like I'm going to throw up, and I've never felt like that before. Like I was fighting it. And then my insides were shaking like nothing else. The only time I've ever felt like that was when I had an epidural, when I was giving birth to my son, and I had the internal shakes so bad it was like I was freezing, but I wasn't. That's kind of what it felt like, except more intense. And then all of a sudden she gets like, her arm visibly gets pulled up, and she gets pushed, like she squatted down. She gets pushed over, and then the ovulus said yank.
Yeah.
I was almost going to throw up. That kind of thing right there was crap I don't want to deal with anymore.
I'm going to teach you how to shield.
Yes, please. Like, in February, please.
Because you need to learn how to shield. Because
I'm trying, but I'm trying, but the mirror thing, the reflective mirror snip don't work for me because I'm ADD. I can't make it to the fifth mirror, and I'm already a squirrel. You know what I mean?
I'll teach you an easier way.
Quick.
I'll teach you an easier way, and this is so easy that worked very well for me. I'll teach you how to ground yourself as well.
Yeah, because we are the best instruments, and we are the best piece of equipment when it's ghost hunting time. You know what I'm saying?
I know.
But sometimes, wow, I mean, even though I was protected, even though I did my protection prayer, which is very important, folks, no matter who you think is your higher power or what you call it, knock on wood, never had that, but, I had to do all that. I had to do that several times just to make me feel, even if it just made me feel better about it, because that was freaky. But you're telling me
you can do a nice cleansing after you get done with the investigation. I always do this. I want a hot bath and throw some sea salt in there.
We couldn't get hot water. We didn't have hot water. That was the coldest shower I've ever taken. I could have cut glass. Let me just say that. And you can picture the rest of it. But it was cold, okay?
No, you just know that you can still use a little small amount of sea salt in your hand and just have it in your hand and cleanse your body with it. And that'll take all the energy, all the negative energy away from you. And it will take, because sometimes there's good energy too that you don't want on you because it's their energy. You don't want to have their energy. You want it while you're there, but when it's done, you want that off of you.
Okay. Well, so you're telling me that we're definitely going to have to do some shielding because Sloss Furnace, which will be February 13th and 14th for all of you.
Oh, let's see. Remember what the challenge was. Do not go in. If you're at Sloss Furnace, this will be my 47th and 48th time there. Do not walk off anywhere by yourself there. There's a lot of trip hazards there, and there's a lot of homeless people that like to jump the fence over there and sleep. And a lot of them aren't just regular bums. They're drunken out bums, or they're high on something, like meth or something like that. So never go off anywhere by yourself. Always stay in the group. Keep everybody together.
Right. But you were telling me about you're daring me to stay in the where?
There. I could stay down there. There were 2 of us in our group, and only 2 of us ended up staying in there. And one other guy that stayed with me, he said, "Man, I thought it every second I was down there because it was about to kill me." He said, "The energy," and I'll tell you this, the energy is so strong down there. There is probably a 5 by 5 foot section there where every meter you got will go nuts, and there is no electricity in this room, none.
Huh.
It will go.
That's very odd.
Yeah.
That kind of sounds like we were at Galena Murder Bordello, and a storm came over, right? And I mean, it was like, you almost could feel your hair standing up. Every one of our K2s, when we turn them on, we go directly to yellow, and we stuck there. So we ended up turning them off because they were just shot. They were no good there. So is it kind of like that energy, or you can feel it with your hair standing up?
Oh yeah, you can feel it. You can feel the hairs on your arms stand up, the hairs on the back of your neck stand up. You can just feel it's. I'm trying to think of what would be equivalent to it that people would understand. I don't know if anybody's ever walked past a power transformer before, but you get this little jittery feeling. You get that little spot down there.
Oh, like you've had way too much coffee, and you're like, yeah.
That's it right there.
Yeah. That's kind of how I was feeling at Stanley. It was, it's on Tyrite and limestone, okay? And so those two together are a good conductor. And maybe that's what it is around Sloss, is the rock formations or the crystals or something around there all working together and causing this vortex down there, it sounds like. Some kind of
Well, the place is built on a limestone foundation, so
duh. There you go. I mean, that's like one of the biggest conductors. That's funny. We were at the investigation Saturday night, and let me just ask: does Sloss Furnace happen to have a crane trough close by? Yes, of course it does. Yeah, that's the thing. We either have water, train tracks, or some sort of electrical vortex with limestone, something like that.
Listen, players, you got the limestone foundation, you got the train tracks, and there is a river that's not too far from there. So you got all 3 of the energy sources right there at that location.
That is wild.
And plus, in the tunnel, there are 2 spots there that there's under the tunnel there are drainage holes, and they're about 25 to 30 feet deep, and they're filled with water.
Oh crap! So you could drop and drown real quick, like.
Well, there is a certain spot in the back end of the tunnel that I will not allow anybody to go past because it is an open hole, and if you've never been to Sloss, that water is not the nicest water in the world. It's probably got stuff in there that ain't got names for yet.
You can't wash this shit off with soap and water, folks.
Exactly, taking this stuff off.
Yeah. Oh.
And I do recommend anybody that does come to cells, wear clothes you do not mind getting dirty, and wear boots.
Yeah.
Because
you told me that. It gets nasty, yeah.
In February, it will be pretty nice and cool.
It's a little crisp.
We had people come in the summertime, and you know, these little prissy little girls come up there, and they got their little $500 flip-flops on, and I'm looking at them laughing and going, you know what's all that? That's fun.
Yeah, right? You're going to be so upset, because you're going to run them, and your feet are going to be nasty.
And they know like nasty water, and the water's not that deep when you go to the sauna, but it's just deep enough where your feet get in it.
Yeah. You know,
and then you go back into the real room where it's dusty as hell. Then you'll have a bunch of mud and muck on your shoes from being in the water. Then you get all dusty. Like I said, wear stuff you don't mind getting dirty, because you will get dirty across. It was a working environment for 45, 50 years.
And it ain't clean, and it ain't been clean, and it's been sitting there. So it's a museum now, and you said a tunnel down underneath. I've heard that guys, that grown men, run out of there crying like little girls. Is that true?
We had an event there, and we had this guy that played football in Auburn, big lion. The arm scared him, blah, blah, blah. Well, he got in the tunnel. He got on the good side of the tunnel where the spirit says a little girl and a mama. He got touched by a little girl. I heard this ungodly womanly scream come out of this big body. I seen him run up the stairs, after his elbows, and the next thing I heard was his car screeching on the parking lot.
Wow. That's crazy now. So, you know, Carol was telling me she will not go down there. She said, I am not going to do it. She's like, screw that. I'm not doing it. Da-da-da. And I'm like, really? She goes, I ain't doing it. She goes, that crap is scary. She goes, they physically touch you down there. Especially females. Is that true?
Do what now?
Is that true that they physically touch females more than guys, really?
Oh, they touch anybody down there, especially the females, because you got to remember it was a male-dominated workforce.
It's almost like a prison.
Pretty much what it was. But yeah, it's really prison because they got paid in what they call clackers. They didn't get paid in cash, and they had a company store on the property, so they had to buy everything from the company store because nobody in town would take those clackers. Well, then they certainly were so indebted to the damn furnace that they had to work there for their whole lives. And then their kids had to work there for their whole lives. It was like the 30s before the government finally came and goes, no, you got to pay these people money.
Wow. That's some interesting stuff right there. I didn't and then, you know, they probably, like, charge them like at the airports. You know, you can get a water at Walgreens for 99 cents, but at the airport, it's going to be $3.99 for a freaking same bottle of water. They probably did the same thing with their placards, and you know, they earned all the money. It's like Walmart employees. they earn all their money, and then they go give it right back to them by buying groceries and clothes and stuff for their family. So it's like a never-ending circle for them, probably.
Well, they had to pay, and they lived on company properties, so all the houses there. There's still 2 houses left on the property. You can't go into them, but it'll show you what they lived in. And these little houses, they sometimes would have up to 3 or 4 families living in that same house.
Little shack, then, kind of like.
As soon as you come into the park and you turn to the left, and you'll see the furnaces. And over to your left, you'll see the 2 houses that are left over there.
Oh wow.
Now, during the daytime, you can actually walk up to the houses, but they're locked, so you can't go inside them. We've never been allowed inside them. I know people that have worked there forever, and they've never been in those houses.
Huh. I wonder why. I wonder why nobody can go in.
They're unsafe. Before we got all their head in there.
Yeah.
It's a liability issue.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. I'm sure you can still get stuff outside of there, though, if it's quiet enough.
Well, yeah, let me tell you this. As soon as you get into the parking lot there and park, you feel like you're just being stared at. You mean, overwhelming feeling of you're being watched.
Oh, boy.
And they are. They're watching you from the time, and they're all around the parking lot. And as soon as you walk to the gate, you just feel more of that energy.
Oh, boy.
Well, we know I know of at least 435 reported deaths there. That figure is probably close to 2,500 that actually died, because there was a lot of Irish and Italian and African-American workers that when they died, they didn't get a funeral. They got thrown in the smoke and burnt down. Well, they didn't have to do the for them. Whoa.
That is so crazy. And, they probably were a lot of immigrants, too, and maybe they weren't even, they weren't required to have all that stuff, really. I mean, they could get through here a lot easier back in those days. And so they weren't really documented, and some of them were just like, oh, nobody will miss them. Kind of like the Riley Town.
I know that Mr. Sloss himself came from Pennsylvania, and he would actually take trains up to New York City, and as soon as they got off the boat, he'd grab them, pull them back on the train, and send them back down there. Yep. You tell that you didn't go to work, I got a job for you. And they all line up, get on the train, and head back. And then once they got on the train, get home then.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, it was like modern, not really modern day, but, slavery, all over again. Which sucks, but, it wasn't just Sloss that did that. The mines that worked did the same thing. They would pay them in some form of cracker, and they'd have to owe their money to the company. Like they was home, owe my phone to the company store, or they rip that stuff. Wow. See, I'm glad we get at least, we don't get paid, some of us, for ridiculous crap, like, I ain't going to name them, but the sisters that do actually nothing and they make millions, that irritates the pee out of me, but, people back there just make $1. It's a lousy freaking dollar that we take so much advantage of nowadays. Back in the day, that was like hardcore, you know what I mean, just to get that. And you find now they didn't even get paid money is even more sad. But, the Sloss event, it's going to have so many cool people there. There are a couple people that we haven't, one person that we haven't actually verified to be there yet, so we haven't released the new Sloss updated flyer. But my good buddy Justin Spreaker is going to be there. You're going to be there. I'm going to be there. I can't remember. Steven and Riley Black are going to be there. Yeah, that's true. I mean, it's going to be so much fun and different because we're going to have so many varieties of personalities and energies and, topics to speak on and things like that some people have never even heard about before. And everyone I encourage to get a ticket to this because it is going to be a cool event. This is like, This is like my top 20. Actually, like 2015, this will be my 47th and 48th time there. We've had activity in that place during the daytime, during the nighttime. In the wheel room, you will chase shadows. I mean, literally chase shadows. And there is a catwalk above the wheel room. And there is a certain section of metal there that will set off EMS. It'll set off K2s, it'll set off a tri-field, it'll set off a millimeter. Within about a 6-foot area. And you move it away from it, your meters will go off. And what we believe happened there, like I said, they would take people when they died, if they were undocumented,
they would throw them in the smelter, because it was easier just to burn them up than it was to bury them.
Bury them, yeah, or mess with any of the paperwork or any of that crap, yeah. So that's why a lot of people went missing, you know, because they were undocumented and then they just disappeared, you know, just like in the mining towns, you know, in Galena, Kansas. They were 30,000 freaking people living in that tiny, tiny town. I can't even imagine that. And, you know, these miners would go into this bordello and then they would just disappear. And, you know, they would never be heard from again because a lot of them, you know, they were like the Indians were. They were nomads. Wherever the work was, they went. So if it wasn't in Galena, Kansas, they moved on to Missouri. If it wasn't in Missouri, they go to Arkansas, you know, and they just hopped around so their families really couldn't keep up with them. Same with these undocumented workers and stuff. That was the perfect thing for Mr. Sloss to do, you know. Smart business move on his part. You know, still crappy, still, you know, but, I mean, my God, you go up there and go, people that are coming off a boat and going, I got a job for you, you'll have it all your life.
I'll give you another example, too. We filmed a documentary up in Centralia, Pennsylvania. It's a whole town I'll tell you the story behind Centralia. 4th of July, they were going to do a big parade through town. Well, they had the city workers go in there and burn a bunch of trash. Well, it caught on fire. It caught the mine on fire. Well, the mine not only had coal in it, it had natural gas pockets in it. Well, they said that place can burn. We had a geologist when we filmed and said that place could actually burn for 1,000 years because there's so much fuel in it with all the coal and the natural gas. Well, there, just right outside of town, there is a mine museum there. And we were listening to the guy talk, and he was saying that the workers were treated so bad, but they treated the donkeys who helped pull the carts. He said they had a vet for them, they were taken well care of, and they were fed very well. The workers, unlike the donkeys, were treated like shit. But, you know, that was, you know, the Industrial Revolution back in the day. And it happened all over the country until the federal government finally goes, no, you got to get better conditions for these people, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, well, thank God they finally did that.
Exactly. But getting back to Sloss, that place is so active. Like I said, you will chase shadow people in the railroad. There is an incident of a man that was leaning up against, now they have a fence around the wheel, but at the time there was no safety guards there. And he was just sitting there eating his lunch, and the suction of the wheel going around sucked him up under, and they could not do nothing about it. All it left was a greasy, bloody spot where he was at. And one of the things that Carol is going to do during these investigations, she's actually going to use some luminol on that.
Yeah, we're going to do some forensics, yeah.
We're going to do some forensics like you see on CSI. And you don't get to see that much every day. And I think it's worth the price of admission just to see that. Besides, the place is so freaking active. You hear all the voices. You get stuff moved on you. You actually hear voices speaking, and I'll say this the nicest way I can. It was a male-dominated workforce, and they will say snide things to females. Well, I gotta thank you. I gotta get off of here and let him get the next show rolling. But I want to thank you so much for joining me on here. And Blaine, I will see you at Sloss Furnace. If anybody needs tickets, please go to Sloss Furnace website. Grab your tickets now. Get it gone. I mean, it's February 13th, 14th, 2015. We're going to be there. We're going to do forensics. We're going to have killer investigations, killer speakers, a lot of fun. Don't miss it. And everybody, thanks for joining me. I want to thank my sponsors, Syntex Roof Systems. Thank you again, Blaine. And everybody, have a good evening. See you next Tuesday. Thanks a lot for joining me.